afternoon and Salam Malaysia Madani. Thanks for joining us. I'm Mohana Priya and you're watching Update Segment. Our headlines today. Water supply issue in certain states not to be politicised. KKD will increase monitoring of fake news on social media. The issue on water supply in certain states such as Sabah and Kelantan are not meant to be politicised. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim said, on the contrary, responsible governments are supposed to step up to manage the issue for the benefit of the rakyat. The Premier said results of the discussions with Sabah Chief Minister and Kelantan Menteri Besar will be brought forward to the Sultan of Kelantan. He also said even though the matter will involve a large amount of spending, it must be done to solve the long-standing issue. In essence, the water supply repair and restoration efforts will take a long time as it is included in the 12th Malaysia Plan, 12 MP.
Dan saya tahu penjawab-penjawab awam yang kanan ni ramai orang Kelantan. Semua agensi, saya akan bincang nanti dengan Kementerian Ekonomi, Kementerian Kewangan dan banyak juga yang KSNC pengusikan, itu kena anjakan besar. Tak adalah rancangan, ada pun dia berperingkat. Tapi saya tak boleh terima kenyataan ini. Ada hal-hal yang patut disegerakan.
He said this in a meeting at the Prime Minister's department in Putrajaya. At the same event, the Prime Minister also stated that all parties in the unity government have agreed to give their full commitment in ignoring any attempts at sabotage to bring down the government. Datuk Seri Anwar said that the sentiment was shared with all leaders and members of Pakatan Harapan, Barisan Nasional Gabungan Parti Sarawak and Gabungan Rakyat Sabah last night.
Jadi terdapat beberapa minggu atau sebulan lebih yang lalu, ketua-ketua parti, baik PH atau BN, GPS, JRS, teman yang besar, bagi komitmen yang sangat jelas. Dan semalam, bila kita adakan perhimpunan, itu dengan pengukuhan itu jelas bahawa sekurang-kurangnya untuk bertahun-tahun akan datang ini tidak ada lagi layanan terhadap segala barang percobaan untuk sabotaj kerajaan yang ada.
The unity government's administration that stresses on good governance has had a positive impact on the country by being able to attract foreign investors and boosting national revenue. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim said he is confident that the cabinet, together with their respective ministries, are able to put Malaysia back as an economic giant in the Asia region.
Korea Selatan menunjuk minat untuk melabur sekitar 24 bilion ringgit melalui syarikat ternama seperti Samsung Engineering, SKC, Lotte Fine Chemicals, Hyundai, Koei dan konsortium syarikat Korea. China dalam kunjungan kita. Ya betul, yang dihebahkan kunjungan saya. Tetapi yang tidak tercatat ialah kerja menteri-menteri dan kementerian-kementerian sebelumnya bertukus lumus berminggu-minggu untuk mendapat catatan pelaburan tertinggi dalam sejarah 170 bilion ringgit. Ini termasuk Gili Proton yang akan memulakan pelaburan 10 bilion ringgit di Automotive City di Tanjung Malim. Saudara, ini artinya good governance.
He added that the unity government will continue to work hard to develop the country. The Prime Minister also reminded all leaders to remain strong in their principles, in their struggle, and not to sell themselves out chasing fleeting power and ill-gotten gains. On another note, Datuk Sri Anwar said he will meet Sabah Chief Minister Datuk Sri Haji Noor and Kelantan Menteri Besar Datuk Ahmad Yaakob within the next 2 weeks to find a solution to the water issue. The Prime Minister said the federal government is committed to resolving the issue that had been plaguing the states for decades now.
Dalam tempoh 2 minggu, saya akan undang Menteri Besar Kelantan dan Ketua Menteri Sabah dan pasukan untuk kita cari jalan menyelesaikan. Kalaupun perlu berbilion ringgit, kita mesti cari dan selesaikan tahun ini juga kerja projek.
Datuk Sri Anwar hoped that the state governments are willing to work together with the federal government for the benefit of the rakyat. He added there is no reason for the government to start a mega program to solve the water issue because it involves a big allocation. But it is because of the unity government wants to translate its promise into action by resolving issues faced by the people. Residents in several areas in Pulau Pinang are expected to experience water supply disruption until Wednesday due to a sudden drop in water levels at the Sungai Muda intake, which affected the inflow to the Sungai Dua water treatment plant LRA. Pulau Pinang Water Supply Corporation Chief Executive Officer K. Padmanathan said the unexpected situation has affected the water supply for thousands of consumers in Seberang Perai Utara, Seberang Perai Tengah, Seberang Perai Selatan and the southern areas of the state. Due to the sudden drop of water levels, the Sungai Dua LRA was unable to produce its normal volume of about 1,000 million litres per day or JLH of treated water. Padmanathan said the PBAPP was channeling water from the Mengkuang Dam to support water production in the Sungai Dua LRA, but its production is limited to 300 JLH, which is not enough to cover the shortage. He added there is no certainty on when the water supply service will be stabilized, as it depends on when the water level in Sungai Muda will recover to 2 meters or higher. Users who still have water supply are advised to store water for use in the next few days. The Communications and Digital Ministry KKD, through the Malaysian Communications and Multimedia Commission MCMC and the Royal Malaysia Police BDRM, will increase monitoring of fake news and hate speech on social media, especially in the run-up to the upcoming state elections. Its Deputy Minister Teo Nee Ching said KKD will also ensure smooth and uninterrupted coverage of the state polls.
Apabila kita lebih mendekati dengan PRM, jadi lagi banyak fake news dan juga ucapan bencian akan berlaku. Jadi MCMC bersama dengan PDRM, kami akanlah bekerja secara rapat untuk monitor ucapan-ucapan dalam social media untuk pastikan bahawa tindakan boleh diambil apabila kita dimaklumkan tentang apa-apa hate speech ataupun berita palsu.
She added that the government, through a special committee, has been working on various organizations, including PDRM and social media platform providers, since December to deal with the irresponsible statements. On a related note, Theo said KKD will ensure that the work of all media practitioners in the upcoming state elections run smoothly and easily through the media centres that will be established by the Information Department soon. Up on the foreign front, Cyclone Mocha makes landfall in Myanmar's Rakhine. But first, Thai opposition parties were holding off announcing victory yesterday night as the number of eligible votes that have been counted left them in a neck-and-neck race to lead a new government. Yesterday's election pits Move Forward and the billionaire Shinawat family's Pheu Thai against ruling parties backed by a nexus of old money, conservatives and generals with influence over key institutions involved in 2 decades of upheaval in Southeast Asia's second biggest economy. Speaking after 50% of eligible votes had been counted, Pheu Thong Tan Shinawat, a prime ministerial candidate for Pheu Thai, said she was happy to move forward. She said that the voice of the people is most important. Move Forward saw a late-stage surge in opinion polls and was banking on young people, including 3.3 million first-time voters, turning out in force to back its liberal agenda. These include plans to dismantle monopolies, weaken the military's political role, and amending a strict law on royal insults that critics say is used to stifle dissent. Move Forward leader Peter Limjonrat, in a news conference, ruled out any alliance with army-backed parties, which he predicted could not stay in power. Elsewhere, Turkey appeared headed for a runoff presidential election with the parties of Recep Tayyip Erdogan and opposition rival Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu each claiming the lead. However, sources in both camps admitted that they may not clear the 50% threshold to win outright. Early results yesterday puts Erdogan comfortably ahead, but as the count continued, his advantage eroded as expected. A runoff on 28th May appeared likely, which would delay a verdict on the president's 2 decades in power. Opinion polls before the election had given Kılıçdaroğlu, who heads a 6-party alliance, a slight lead, and 2 polls on Friday even showed him above the 50% threshold. However, most had suggested a tight margin. Both sides dismissed the other side's count with no official result announced. Over 64 million people in Turkey are eligible to vote in the current general election, which witnesses one of the toughest challenges to Erdogan's premiership in 20 years. Cyclone Mocha, packing winds of over 200 kilometers per hour, slammed into Myanmar's western coastal state of Rakhine on yesterday afternoon, bringing heavy rains to the Southeast Asian country. Now, Myanmar on Saturday issued its highest level red cyclone alert for Mocha, which is forecast to be the strongest cyclone to hit the country in more than a decade. Flights to and from Rakhine State have been suspended and ships have been advised to remain in shelter until further notice. Myanmar's capital Naypyidaw and other regions, including Ayeyarwady, Yangon and Tanin Thairi, have all seen extreme weather, while flooding and landslides have been reported in Chin and Shan states. According to the country's weather bureau, winds sweeping Yangon, the country's biggest city, were gusting over 90 kilometers per hour, uprooting trees and scattering debris across streets. Emergency service personnel have been helping people and clearing blocked roads where possible. Residents living near the port south of the city have prepared for the storm, but are still living in fear of its impact. China's auto sales soared 82.7% year-on-year to about 2.16 million units in April, according to data released by the China Association of Automobile Manufacturers. Auto sales totaled about 8.24 million units in the first 4 months, up 7.1% from the same period a year ago. In April, sales of passenger vehicles rose 87.7% year-on-year to 1.81 million units. New energy vehicles, NEVs, sustained a robust growth momentum last month as their sales soared over 110% year-on-year to 636,000 units, with the NEV market share reaching 29.5%. Another bright spot was the rapid growth of auto exports. In April, the country's automakers exported 376,000 units of vehicles, up 170% year-on-year. On a monthly basis, auto exports went up by 3.3%. The Haitong International Automotive Terminal at Waigaoqiao Port in Shanghai in the first quarter of 2023 continued the strong momentum of exporting more than 1 million cars last year, exporting a total of 231,000 vehicles, of which new energy vehicles accounted for 40%. Those vehicles were sold to different areas, including Europe, Southeast Asia, South America, and the Middle East. In the first 4 months of this year, China's auto companies exported 1.37 million vehicles, up 89.2% year-on-year. Among them, 348,000 were new energy vehicles, increasing by 1.7 times year-on-year. The Spanish government has announced an emergency drought relief fund worth more than $2.4 billion to help areas and industries most affected by extreme water shortages as the country adapts to a rapidly changing climate. Now, the decision, which was announced last week, came as 27% of Spanish territory is in a state of drought emergency or alert. One of the most severely affected regions in northeastern Spain has not seen any rainfall in nearly 3 years, which has prompted the government to earmark urgent funds to help regions like this. More than $1.5 billion of newly unveiled funds will be set aside to increase water supply through desalination plants and by improving the efficiency of the current distribution infrastructure. Another $850 million in direct grants and loans will also be made available to help struggling farmers feed their livestock and ensure water supply for crops. Last month was Spain's hottest and driest April since records began, and last year was the country's hottest ever, and experts are growing increasingly concerned. The government has categorized the drought as a major national concern and pledged to release funds as soon as possible. Hector Elias Flores Chavez, known as L15 and allegedly a major leader of the Sinaloa cartel in Cancun, was arrested by Mexican authorities in Sinaloa and subsequently taken to Quintana Roo to be placed in prison on Saturday. The suspect was part of Los Chapitos, a faction of the criminal organization led by the sons of jailed drug kingpin Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. In April, the Quintana Roo prosecutor's office had issued an arrest warrant and a 1 million peso, equivalent to $56,800 as a reward against him. The now detained man is accused of ordering attacks and executions against criminal groups fighting for territory in tourist resorts in the state of Quintana Roo. State authorities accuse L15 of several executions, the most recent in April, the murder of 4 people outside a Cancun hotel. The operation by members of the Navy and the National Guard led to the arrest of the alleged leader in Guamuchil, Sinaloa. Barcelona clinches 27th La Liga title. That and more next in sports. The national men's Mobile Legends team Bang Bang's winning streak in the 2023 SEA Games came to an end as they faltered in the grand final. The national team lost 0-3 to the Philippines, marking their first loss after a flawless run in the group stage and semi-finals. In their first 2 matches, Idrin Abdul Jamal, Mohammad Zul Hisham Mohammad Noor, Muhammad Irwandi Lim, Mohammad Daniel Mohammad Fuad and Mohammad Nazhan Mohammad Noor dished out fierce competition to the opponent. However, the Philippines representatives emerged victorious on both occasions. Into their final clash, the national team struggled to get a cohesive movement in the map, resulting in victory to the opponent. Despite being unable to deliver gold, national team manager Andrew Cheong heaped praise on all team members as they had just a week to prepare for the games after completing duty with their own teams in the Mobile Legends Professional League Malaysia MPL. Malaysia claimed their first ever esports silver medal in the 2023 SEA Games via the Attack Online 2 mixed team event on the 7th of May, followed by a bronze from the National Women's Mobile Legends Bang Bang team last Thursday. In Super League news, Negeri Sembilan FC, NSFC ended their 4-game winless streak and emerged victorious against KL City FC 2-1 at the Tuanku Abdul Rahman Stadium in Paroi last night to secure the maximum 3 points. In a rematch after their first clash on 11th March was delayed due to heavy rain, both teams were looking to dominate each other. However, both teams ended their first half tied and goalless. NSFC captain Muhammad Zakan Ada Abdul Razak broke the deadlock in the 73rd minute, heading in a cross from substitute A. Selvin in the 73rd minute, marking his first goal of the season. This sparked a reaction from the visiting side, who scored from a set-piece in the 84th minute to level the game, with Zafri Yahya heading in the free kick by Paulo Josue. Refusing to let their winless streak continue, K. Devon's men went ahead again 3 minutes later, this time through Mohammad Safwan Baharuddin, who scored off a corner kick taken by Mohammad Zakwan. KL City FC looking like they could level the game once again when they were awarded a free kick in stoppage time. However, NSFC goalkeeper Sik Azhan Nazril stepped up to deny Josue deadly left foot shot. The result sees NSFC remain remain in the 9th place with 13 points, while KL City FC are in 6th with 15. Barcelona claimed their 27th La Liga title and first for 4 years after 2 first-half goals from Robert Lewandowski spurred them to a comfortable 4-2 victory over city rivals Espanyol. Now, Barca moved to 85 points from 34 matches and extended their lead to an unassailable 14 points over second-placed Real Madrid. Barca opened the scoring early with a close-range strike by Lewandowski. Alejandro Balde, who put it on a plate for Lewandowski's opener, scored Barca's second with a tap-in from a Pedri cross in the 20th minute. Lewandowski extended Barca's lead 5 minutes before the break with another close-range finish from a Rafinha cross. Defender Jules Koundé headed in Barca's fourth in the 53rd minute before Javi Puado and Joselu scored consolation goals for Espanyol. Barcelona have won 27 of their 34 games this season, with their title charge built largely on their outstanding defence, which has conceded a measly 13 goals, the best defensive record in Europe. At home, their defensive numbers are even more impressive, with only 2 goals conceded, one from a penalty and the other an own goal. They are the second highest scorers in the division, having bagged 64 goals, with La Liga's leading marksman this season, Lewandowski, netting 21, 4 more than Real's Karim Benzema. Meanwhile, thousands of Barcelona fans poured into the Catalan capital's La Rambla Boulevard to celebrate the club's 27th La Liga title. Armed with flares, singing and chanting, they gathered round the Canaletes fountain, where supporters of the Catalan giants traditionally gather to celebrate big titles. Barcelona were last champions of Spain in the 2018-2019 season, when they had club greats Lionel Messi and Luis Suarez spearheading their attack. Yet, as the club fell into a deep financial crisis, both had to leave and the team's fortunes declined. However, coach Xavi Fernandez guided them back to the summit less than 2 years after he returned to the club to replace Ronald Koeman in November 2021. After a glorious run from 2005 to 19, when the club won 4 Champions League titles and 10 La Liga championships, Barcelona have reached the semis of Europe's elite club competition just once since lifting the title in 2014-2015. This season, however, they have enjoyed an outstanding domestic campaign, having beaten bitter rivals Real Madrid in the Spanish Super Cup final and won La Liga with 4 games to spare. Chelsea have reached an agreement to appoint former Tottenham Hotspur and Paris Saint-Germain boss Mauricio Pochettino as their manager. Pochettino will take charge of the club at the end of the season, succeeding Frank Lampard, who took over as interim manager at Stamford Bridge last month following the sacking of Graham Potter. Chelsea have lost 6 of their 8 matches under Lampard, leaving them 11th in the league standings and without European football for the next season. The London club won the Champions League in 2021 but will end this season without any silverware and are stumbling towards their worst campaign since 1993-94. Pochettino, who favours a high-pressing and attacking style of play, will be tasked with reviving the Blues. The 51-year-old Argentine garnered a reputation for fostering young talent and led Southampton to an 8th-placed finish in his first full season in England before joining the Spurs in 2014. Under Pochettino, Tottenham reached the 2019 Champions League final and became Premier League title contenders as they finished in the top 4 for 4 straight seasons from 2015 to 2019 before he was fired. Pochettino joined PSG in January 2021, winning a French Cup and a League One title, but he was sacked after failing to deliver in the Champions League. And on to tennis, local favourite Jannik Sinner survived a test but managed to overcome lucky loser Alexander Shevchenko yesterday and advanced to the 4th round of the Italian Open. Sinner raced through the first set, breaking the Russian's serve 3 times to take it 6-3. But Shevchenko forced a tie-break in the second set, which he won 7-4, despite a mostly Italian crowd firmly behind Sinner. However, the number 8 seed was too much to handle in the deciding set, as he rose the crowd's energy to a 6-3, 7-6, 6-2 victory. Sinner, ranked number 8, will face Argentinian Francisco Cerundolo, the number 24th seed, next. In the previous round of the Italian Open, the 21-year-old Italian won against Australian qualifier Thanasi Kokkinakis 6-1, 6-4. Shevchenko, ranked number 93, beat Argentinian Sebastian Baez 6-3, 6-4. And in another match, Alexander Zverev of Germany staged a comeback to move past Belgium's David Goffin. In the first set, Zverev opened the match really well, taking an early commanding lead over David Goffin, but he completely threw away all of that with a string of poor choices and generally lackluster play. Goffin broke Zverev early in the second set as well, and it seemed like he was on the verge of another early exit. But he managed to rally and win the set 6-3. The crucial thing that allowed Zverev to turn things around was the serve, as he served quite a bit better than in the first set. It gave him a chance to win points more easily, and he was able to combine 3 aces and 12 winners to turn the set around. The third set came down to another break in the final game, with Zverev winning 5-7, 6-3, 6-4 in just under 2.5 hours. VR46 Racing's Marco Bezzecchi produced a battling display at the French GP yesterday to record his second win of the season and slash fellow Italian Francesco Banaya's championship lead. Saturday's sprint winner Jorge Martin finished second, just over 4 seconds behind the winner, while Martin's Pramac Ducati team mate Johan Zarco was third to give the French fans something to cheer about. Reigning champion Banaya was competing with Aprilia's Maverick Vinales 22 laps from the end when contact on a risky overtaking move caused both riders to crash out of the race. Tempers flared and Vinales confronted the championship leader and shoved him before the pair were separated. On the same lap, Gresini Ducati's Alex Marquez and Luca Marini of VR46 Ducati were involved in a crash, with Marquez emerging unscathed despite landing in the middle of the track. 6-time world champion Marc Marquez looked on course for a second-place finish, but crashed out after a mistake with 2 laps to go. And on to cycling. Pre-race favourite Remco Evenepoel stormed to victory in a rain-affected Giro d'Italia Stage 9 yesterday to retake the leader's Maglia Rosa jersey, only to pull out of the race hours later after testing positive for COVID-19. Evenepoel, in a statement, announced with a heavy heart that he will be leaving the Giro d'Italia due to COVID-19 after taking a routine test. The new race leader is Britain's Geraint Thomas. Evenepoel won Stage 9, a 35-kilometre individual time trial with a time of 41 minutes and 24 seconds, just 1 second ahead of Thomas and 2 seconds clear of Thomas Ineos Grenadiers teammate Tao Geoghegan Hart. Overnight leader Andreas Leknesund from Team DSM relinquished his advantage in the overall standings, where Evenepoel had earned a 45-second lead over Thomas before dropping out, while Triple Vuelta a España champion Primoz Roglic, who finished 17 seconds behind Evenepoel, was in third and now moves into second. Geoghegan Hart and Joao Almeida are now third and fourth, respectively. Monday is a rest day on the Giro. And that concludes today's edition of Updates at Noon. In our top story today, water supply issue in certain states not to be politicized. Do you tune in to Malaysia Tonight, coming up later at 8:30 on Saluran Berita RTM. You can also stream it via RTM's mobile click app. I'm Mohana Priya. Thank you for your company.